Welcome everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of the HOScale newsletter recaps, where we just take a look at some of the newsletters in the HOScale community, talk about new upcoming items and just general updates in the community. I'm enjoying making this series so far. Hope you are as well. I do ask if you do find yourself coming back or if you're brand new here, do me a favor and subscribe. It's completely free and honestly just helps me to one day make a couple dollars off this channel, so I'd really appreciate it. Like the video if you enjoy as well. Drop me a comment if there's anything here that you find interesting, but let's go ahead and get started. We'll start off, as you can see behind me here, with the Broadway Limited newsletter. Just a little short one this week, but I wanted to start with this one because it starts by talking about their outlet store, which I wasn't sure how it worked for a little while, so I just wanted to let you guys know here. So if I scroll down here, there's a little bit of a description talking about how it's a lot of refurbished products in both HO and N scale. But if I go ahead and take a look over here, and all I've done is sort by in-stock models and HO scale, you can see there's a lot offered here. And if you're okay with having a refurbished model, you'll save a lot of money here. They do come with the same 1-year warranty from BLI, but as for locomotives here, lots of GP20s in refurbished condition here. I'll scroll a little quick if you're interested. Just head over to Broadway Limited's website and then you can click the link at the top called Outlet Store. They've got GP30s here as well. And if I get down a little ways, something I didn't expect to see here was rolling stock. So lots of these cryogenic tank cars here. And if you click on the link, it'll sometimes tell you what was wrong with the model, why it was brought in for refurbishment. Just to give you an idea if you're okay with that. But if it's coming from the manufacturer here, it should look good once again, just like new. But yeah, just move a little quick through here in case you're interested. They do have some DCC ready models here at the bottom as well, or no sound versions. That's just a quick look at the outlet store from BLI. But back over here in the newsletter, the only other item they're talking about here is their BOGO sale on rolling stock, both HO and N scale, so equal or lesser value there. Just a heads up on that. That's all Broadway Limited had for this week. We're going to go ahead and jump over to ScaleTrains, which has a lot more info. Alrighty, back over in the ScaleTrains newsletter here. Starting off, an item we've seen before here, and something that one of you guys actually let me know that the original molds for the wood reefers were actually MTH tooling that's now being released under the Fox Valley Models line from ScaleTrains. So again, ScaleTrains bought both Fox Valley models and the MTH tooling for HO scale, so a lot is being released now under that Fox Valley Models line. In any case, we've seen this before. Not a whole lot of reefers in stock here. We took a look at the paint schemes before. I'll just scroll through here. Lots of things are already sold out or running low, so if you were going to pick one up, definitely consider taking a look soon. Again, I've said this before too, it is a good looking model, it's just not really in my time period, so I think I'll be passing on that. But down here in the tier 4s, there is one that's now been catching my eye. In the hypotypical scheme, that BNSF H1, which we'll see run through here again, these 4 units that are flashing by here, these Canadian National Heritage units, I now actually own. They are awesome. Incredible paint schemes. I'm so happy with them. So I did a review on that recently. If you'd like to check that out, I'll link that on the top right here. But there's that H1 paint scheme for BNSF. Very sharp. Again, no tier 4s were ever painted in that paint scheme. So that's why it's released under that hypotypical scheme. There are some other variations here as well. Of course, these models here up on the top do actually exist, like the CN, Norfolk Southern, Union Pacific, in the Tier 4 liveries. But then we get down into the hypotypical schemes. There's that BNSF H1. I think I really want one because I don't own any Dash 9s yet. And I need ScaleTrains to re-release the Dash 9s for BNSF in the H1 scheme. So I think that's the big pull for me, but definitely very, very cool. I think it'd be a cool heritage scheme for BNSF to actually do on a locomotive because that Heritage 1 scheme is just so good. But there are other offerings. The Canadian Pacific scheme looks very sharp as well. Of course, they only own ES44s and no ET44s. We get a Ferromex release. Those usually go pretty quick as well. So very cool to see these offerings. And this is the first time in any of their newsletters that they've actually mentioned the heritage models, the IC, EJ&E, Wisconsin Central, and BC Rail. There was no mention of them at all in any of the literature before those were released. And even the pictures up above have them as their previous release without the painted wheels. So you can see those do exist now in this release. But in any case, I'm a big fan of the Tier 4s from ScaleTrains. Having a great time with these paint schemes that I already picked up. I love that they're cheaper than ES44s for whatever reason. Not by much, but like a couple bucks. So nice to have there. The Canadian units, of course, have the special Canadian walkways with grates all the way down. That's separately applied. Nice little detail to have. And these new releases having painted wheels just really brings that realism factor up. But enough with the ET44s. Onto the ST45s. Of course, we can see the Santa Fe scheme here. I'm still on the fence. I don't know what I'll be picking up, if I'll pick one of these up, or if I'll go with the BNSF ET44. The GP40s are coming out soon. Those should be landing at the end of November. So I'm sort of hanging out to see. I'm definitely going to pick up a Milwaukee Road version of those, and then I might pick up an ST45 or one of those ET44s. So I know I keep talking about it, but that's my current asphyxiation, I guess. So here's a quick update on those schemes. Lots of limited models here. One version is sold out, that Clinchfield patch. I did take a look at the Seaboard system models when I was at Lombard Hobbies picking up the Rapido cars. They do look great. I just don't know yet if I'm going to pull the trigger on that. If you do have some of these models in this new release or in prior releases, let me know how you're liking it. I just haven't been a huge fan of the SD45 in total, really. It's not one of my more favorite locomotives, but it's still really nice, and it's cool that ScaleTrains is doing this release here. We do have one more pre-order deadline. Of course, the new run of the 82-foot Trinity reefer cars that we all knew was coming. We do have different options here, lots of distressed or patched out versions, as you can see on the top. I'm not doing any pre-orders for this since I already have 10 now from the first two releases. Super happy with those. But here's just a quick look at those paint schemes. Once again, that order deadline is next Monday. And in this entire list, both are offered both with the conspicuity stripes, the FRA stripes, and without. So really there's twice the number of paint schemes offered here. They have those top three were in the first release, the unpatched versions there, and then the patch versions, of course, are all new for this release. Next up, one more pre-order, and that is the new run of the ES44s. So featured there's the Ferromex scheme, new zebra road numbers offered. I know I said it earlier, but those schemes definitely go pretty quick. I do like that zebra scheme, it's pretty sharp. I just don't know if I'll be picking it up myself. Here's a quick info on the history there of that Ferromex scheme. Sort of a newer release as they merged with the other railroads that they've acquired here. Of course, coming with Locksound 5, DCC and sound, get the power pack or capacitor, lots of lighting options. And here's that list of road names. You see there's also new offerings of the CSX heritage paint schemes as well. And just like the Trinity Reefers, the pre-order deadline for these is the 25th, next Monday. And now for some bigger news. They have a Thanksgiving sale that they're calling Trainsgiving. So that's last Friday, the 15th, through this upcoming Monday, the 25th. So there's some good deals here for N scale. Again, not an N scale guy, I'll just go sort of skip through it a little bit. But if you buy a sound equipped version, you'll get 2 freight cars for free. And a DCC ready version, you get 1 freight car for free. That's an N scale. N scale, they have silver tenders 40% off as well. And now down to the HO scale. They've got the individual tenders, so not the twin packs that they offer. So they've got sort of your excursion versions. The Jim Adams and Joe Jordan there are what you want to pick up if you're running behind the big boy. I got a chance to see those in person, of course, when I got to stop by the big boy on tour over in Rochelle, Illinois. So pretty cool there. We do have a sale on exact rail freight cars, 40% off. I do have some that I should review shortly. They are the PC&F Tropicana reefers. So those I'm very, very happy with. Picked those up on sale a little bit ago. So exact rail, definitely high quality. So if you're interested in any of the models here, definitely check out that sale as well. And the last sale, the first museum quality release here, the SDL 39s. So a couple options here, about $100 off for DCC and sound versions and almost $70 off the DCC Ready, both Milwaukee Road and Wisconsin Central versions. They do make a quick note that they do have a couple of the Wisconsin Central with ditch lights. That'll probably sell out a little faster. And here's a little bit of their fine print on the details of the sale. And of course, we've heard about this for a little while. TrainFest is this upcoming weekend, the 23rd and 24th in Milwaukee. So they've got two things that they mention here that they'll be displaying, the new CSX Heritage schemes, as well as samples of the GE AC44C6Ms. I do have the Sonic Bonnet on pre-order, number 4000, so the first of that series to go through that conversion. So very, very cool. Hope everybody has a good time that's going there. A lot of manufacturers, one of the best train shows as well. And just a little bit of update on their holiday hours around Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. But that wraps up ScaleTrains for this week. Let's go ahead and hop on over to Athearn. All right, next up is the Athearn Dispatcher, talking about some November pre-orders to start. So a Genesis model, the 2600 cubic foot air slide covered hopper here. So here's a little bit of detail on it. Of course, those will be open for pre-order here. And a model that's coming soon, the 280 in the standard Athearn line. So that's below Genesis, but above their Roundhouse line that used to be called Ready to Run, but now it's just called Athearn. So still a little confusing there. But here's some of those paint schemes looking pretty sharp here. I'll let them cycle through. Lots of options here for you. But those will be DCC ready and will also come with Econami equipped. Next up here, another standard Athearn release, the 50-foot ice bunker reefer, which looks pretty neat. Some of those info here, and I'll scroll down so you can see the paint schemes running by. Love the Santa Fe Railroad, that orange boxcar. I remember some of my first models were the blue box kits in that paint scheme, so it's got a special place for me. And another model now hitting shelves, the PS 4740 covered hopper. Again in the standard Athearn line. And here's some of those paint schemes flashing by here. They look pretty standard, pretty good for your budget models. Nothing too crazy, of course, just the regular Athearn line. And Athearn will also be at TrainFest, just like ScaleTrains. A little bit of info on where they'll be. And lastly, after that nice photo of that KCS model, their update on their holiday hours as well. That's all for Athearn this week. Not a whole lot going on. Let's go ahead and take a look at Walthers. All right, over here in the Walthers e-update from last week, the Xuron track cutters, pretty sure that's how you say it. I do own these myself, big fan of them. They seem to work pretty well. I've heard good things about them, that's why I bought them, and they're working well for me. So let me know if you've also had a good experience with those. They're pretty inexpensive, and they work well for track cutters if you don't have a Dremel tool. So very nice to have, very handy. Little update here on a Walthers mainline model. The SD70M, SD75M, and SD75I are coming with new tooling. They'll come with ESU sound and DCC or your standard DC. What's cool is the standard DC does have a speaker already installed, so you can just drop in your decoder and you'll be ready to go. I personally don't own any Walthers mainline locomotives, but I've heard good things about them for being a good entry-level budget locomotive, and we want to make the hobby accessible to everybody, so this is a really good starting point if you're looking to just get into it. So definitely take a look if you're interested in any of those models, and of course, even if you do have the money, you can always buy one of these and upgrade it, because you're sacrificing things like extra grab irons or MU hoses in these models, but they still look pretty good for the value they provide. But next up here, a new product, the new Walthers roadbed, which is pretty neat. So I've seen this actually used with Darryl Cruz's layout, the Evanston sub, and I thought it was pretty interesting, wondered where he got it from. And this is actually sort of what that is. He does have that already. This is the Walthers version of that. So it's cool to see another manufacturer coming out with something like that. I might consider picking that up and just testing it out for you when that does release. It's coming out in winter 2025, so little ways off, but very cool offering there as well to replace your standard cork. And moving on here, another mainline release, the 50-foot 100-ton 4-bay hopper. Again, a mainline release, so they're able to offer a lot more road names, so it could be more appealing. And again, you don't always need the perfect detail accuracy in all your freight cars if you're buying a huge unit train. So very nice if you wanted to fill something out. A little update on Small Business Saturday coming up in 2 weekends on November 30th. So definitely support your local hobby shop. A new pickup truck here as well. The Nissan Frontier, as I know it in North America. So pretty good option there to provide new cars for your layout. And the final model featured in this e-update from Walthers is a model actually by Katie. So the guys who make the couplers, of course, also have a line of rolling stock, primarily hoppers and box cars. So these, of course, come with the Katie couplers. They've got properly sized wheels and some pretty good details there as well. I'll have to pick one up eventually. Haven't quite done so yet, but very nice offering to round off Walthers. Next, we'll take a look over at ClassOne Modelworks for another one of their new release updates. So over here in the ClassOne Modelworks newsletter, their new release is the GSC Heavy Duty Flat Car. It's the second run they've ever done of these. So if you have one of their first run, let me know how that's treating you. But these look really cool. Lots of detail here from ClassOne, of course. There's some pictures of it in the Atlantic coastline scheme. Then here's another look that we took a look at last time, but in case you missed it, of that road-specific detail. Tons of things going on that they've paid attention here to. So just zoom in just a little bit so you can take a look. Lots of things that they included on these models. But in case you missed it, they are offering this in 14 road names. There's a list there of the offerings in their second run of these cars. We have one final update from Atlas to close out this newsletter recap, so let's go ahead and take a look at that too. And the last manufacturer we'll take a look at today is Atlas. Of course, their new release here, the HO 20,700 gallon tank cars, originally made for GATX. So most of these will have that reporting mark with a different scheme on it. Here's a quick look at those features. They should be arriving either this week or most likely to dealers next week or the week after. They do have a quick release video, but let's take a look at those paint schemes. Got a lot of options. I'm sure you've seen these before roaming around the rails, so it's cool to have this other option here. I do like this scale test car in the Union Pacific scheme. That's pretty neat. Haven't seen one of those before. But that does wrap up Atlas's newsletter for this week. And I do think that'll bring today's video to a close. Don't want to talk too much about the models that I've talked about before. Of course, the ones I'm still looking into buying are the ET44 in the H1 scheme, the GP40 from ScaleTrains also in the Milwaukee Road scheme, waiting for that to come out at the end of the month. The big model that did finally arrive were those Rapido Bud Gallery cars for Metra. So happy with them. If you haven't checked those out, you definitely should. I can't wait for future releases of those to offer other Metra lines. Of course, I'm satisfied with my BNSF, but I know other people will be excited to see their line represented. The last update we had regarding the F40 PHM-2s in the Metra scheme from Rapido was that they were leaving the factory, so those should be around likely end of December, I'm expecting, based on the travel time and such to the dealers that the Bud Gallery cars took, but I can't wait for those as well. Those should be on their way too. Other than that, that's all I have in terms of updates from the HSKO community this week. Thanks again for tuning in. If you did make it this far, do me a favor and consider subscribing. It is completely free to you, and you can always change your mind. Like the video if you enjoyed as well, and drop me a comment if there's anything you found interesting here, anything you're considering ordering, or if there's anything I may have missed, or you just want to chat. Thanks again, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.